Hi, welcome to Yoga Today. My name's BEA WHITTON. This class is a YogaSculpt class with a particular focus on our cardio bursts. YogaSculpt is a rigorous practice that incorporates aspects of Vinyasa flow power yoga and then interval and cardio training. The cardio work is a really unique aspect that really differentiates our YogaSculpt practice. There's short, HIIT, high-intensity interval training periods where instead of doing our typical aerobic exercise, we're tapping into anaerobic exercise, which means we're not using as much oxygen. We're forcing the body to have a higher metabolic cost, which means we have to have the rest afterwards. It's going to force us to burn more fat, more calories, and it's going to help tone the mind and the body. Joining us today, we have Steph. For this class, we're going to need a light set of weights. Given this is one of our introductory sculpt classes, I recommend starting with a lighter set of weights, 1 to 2 pounds. We can also have a set of 3-pound, maybe 4 or 5-pound weights around if you'd like to pick them up later in the practice as you get more comfortable using the weights. So let's get started in tabletop position. Bringing hands underneath shoulders, knees under hips, untucking toes. Starting with 4 rounds of cat-cow to warm up mobility in the spine. Dropping belly, energizing shoulders away from ears, opening chest on the inhale. Exhale, rounding spine. Taking 3 more rounds and beginning to link breath to movement. Our Ujjayi breath we're going to use in our sculpt practice, but understanding at any point during the practice, especially during the cardio burst, if we want to open the mouth, speed up the breath, feel free to do so. Taking 1 more round of cat-cow. And then pausing in our tabletop position. We're going to extend right arm long out in front, palm facing in. And then we're going to extend left leg long behind. Take a second to make sure that we have even weight distribution with the left hand and right knee and shin. And then can we pull everything into one center line, flex the toes, and lengthen fingers toward the front of the space and heels toward the back. This is a great pose to do before we come into some of our cardio bursts that are going to really involve strengthening toward a center line space and stabilizing hips and core. We're going to take an inhale together, and as we exhale, right elbow touches left knee. And then returning back out. 1 more. And back out. Hands come down and switching sides. Left arm extends long, palm faces in, and right leg comes long behind. Again, take some time, find stability. Push down into the right hand, the left knee, the left shin, and the left top of foot. Energize fingers toward top of space, flex the back foot, and heel pulls toward back of space. And then can we pull the inner thighs and inner arms toward each other coming in, engaging core. Taking a deep inhale and then exhale, bringing knee to elbow and coming out. 1 more. And returning back to our tabletop position. We're going to tuck toes and bring hips up and back for downward facing dog. Pedaling out feet. And then bending knees and taking small steps to top of mat space. Toe, heel, feet, hip distance apart, and allow yourself to hang. Again, coming back to Ujjayi breath, feeling a release in the hamstrings. And then articulating 1 vertebrae at a time, slowly coming up, taking our time until we come to our standing position. We're going to toe, heel, feet together, so big toes touch, little space between the heels. And then we're going to inhale, arms come up above the head. And then exhale, swan dive forward. Half lift on the inhale. And then planting palms, step back to our high plank pose. Once we're here, we're going to kick off our practice today with a cardio burst. So we're going to find 5 different forms of cardio bursts throughout this practice, and they're all going to include and incorporate different parts of our muscles. This first one is going to be pretty simple. We want to walk the feet a little bit wider than they would normally be in our high plank pose. We can also walk the hands a little more forward. All we're going to do is touch the left shoulder with the right fingers and then place the hand back down. From there, we're switching sides. What this is causing you to do is stabilize through the core and the shoulder space. Starting right now for 30 seconds, I recommend starting slow. Take your time. Just like in our initial tabletop position, can we pull inner thighs toward each other energetically? Try to keep the shoulders squared. Try to keep the hips squared. Engage the core by pulling navel up to the ceiling or the back spine space. We have about 10 more seconds. If you'd like, we can start to speed it up, maybe allowing for the heart rate to start to spike. For 5, great job, Steph. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Holding high plank pose, and then hips come up and back, downward facing dog. So we're going to find 2 rounds of our flow today in Sculpt practice. The first round we're going to do without our weights. We're going to take it a little bit slower and come into alignment. Second round, we're going to pick up our weights. Between the left and right sides, we're going to hit up some more cardio bursts. So, meeting me in downward facing dog. Downward facing dog, we're going to lift right leg up behind, flex toes, pull inner thighs toward each other. Listening closely. We're going to pull forward into our high plank with the right leg still up, so we're in our one-legged plank position. You can stay here if you'd like, or if you want, we can lower halfway down, keeping the leg lifted, back up, and take it back behind to our 3-legged dog. Knee comes to nose, step foot between hands, and then rising up to our high lunge position. Relax shoulders, spiral pinkies, take it a little lower in the front knee. We're going to come into our first balancing pose here, our warrior 3 position. So hands can come to heart center, walk the back foot in, and then just like we have in our last poses, pull everything into one center line, core engagement, push into the ground, and then start to lift the back leg up. Engage the right quad and knee and drop the left hip. Listening closely to this transition, we're going to come right back down to our high lunge. And the transition here is a little tricky, but we'll get used to it. We're going to take our left hand and place it on the inner line of right foot. And then we're going to come onto our left hand and outer line of left foot, finding Vinyasa side plank pose. Right hand comes back down, returning to our high plank. Taking a chaturanga. And meeting back in down dog. So, setting up for our second cardio burst. Pulling back forward to high plank position. So we're going to come right into this with some mountain climbers. When we find our mountain climber, we're going to bring knee up to the neck space and back. Each time we do it, we have the choice to put the toes down, or we can keep them up in the air. We can also bring the knee across the body, trying to touch opposite armpit. Take it slow to start, and then maybe speed it up to start to spike the heart rate, sending oxygen to the brain. So, finding high plank position, starting now for 30 seconds. We can speed it up or slow it down. The biggest thing here is stability in the shoulders. We want to push away from the ground and keep the strength, activating the biceps, the triceps. Awesome job, Steph. We're about halfway through, so now may be a good time to start to speed things up. Allow for the heart rate to start to spike, understanding you have a rest after this, right? Remembering anaerobic exercise for 5, 4, 3, 2, and ending in down dog position. Great opportunity here to open the mouth. Exhale, stale air out. Anything no longer serving you. Right now we're in that period that follows directly after our anaerobic push, where we start to burn the fat, the calories, and also release the mind, right? To release the serotonin, endorphins. We're gonna switch sides. So left leg comes up behind. Square hips, flex toes. Pull inner thighs toward each other. And then pull forward to high plank with the left leg lifted. We can stay here or lower halfway down, back up, and back to three-legged dog. Knee comes to nose, step foot between hands. And then rising up, crescent lunge pose. Take time to find form, stacking knee and ankle. Hands come to heart center, and we're finding our warrior 3 pose on this side. So option to walk back foot in, and then launching off. We want to pull inner thighs toward each other and stabilize through left leg. So flex left quad, lift left kneecap, and then drop right hip. So beautiful, Steph. Back toes are flexed. Mindfully and gracefully coming back down to our high lunge position. Transition here is our right side Vashisthasana. So right hand comes down onto inner line of left foot, coming onto right hand and outer line of right foot, Vashisthasana. A reminder to keep the hips and the shoulders stacked, and if we want, gaze can come up toward the tips of fingers. Bringing left hand down to our high plank position. You have an optional chaturanga, meeting back in down dog. Once we're in our down dog position, we're gonna set up for our third cardio burst. So, pulling back forward to our high plank pose. We can come down to our knees for a second if we'd like, watching and listening to me first. So again, this is where stabilization in the hips and shoulders is really important, and that all comes from core. So we're gonna push away from the ground. You can walk your feet a little bit wider than you're used to if that's gonna help with stability. From here, we're gonna come down onto our forearms. If you'd like, we can find our dolphin forearms or our fists, and then come back up. We're gonna start by coming down with one side and back up with that side, and then maybe switching. What this is doing, right, is it's stabilizing the core, and then it's also stabilizing the shoulders, and then you're gonna start to get your heart rate up as you start to speed things up. So 30 seconds here, starting in high plank. A reminder, take it slow and then speed it up. Here we go. Coming down and then up. A reminder that we can walk our feet a little bit wider apart if you think that might help. Yeah, and then really stabilizing the center body space. What we don't want to do in this position is let the center spine space start to drop, start to arch down. Can we pull navel up towards spine? We're about halfway through. You're doing so great, Steph. If we can, maybe we start to speed it up if we become comfortable with our form. Right, shoulders are firing, muscles are starting to exhaust, and we're changing the muscle fibers, and we're enlarging and strengthening the muscles, making lean toned muscles for 5, 4, 3, 2, hold high plank, hips come up and back, down dog. Take a second. Can we rest here? Can we find peace in our downward facing dog following the cardio burst? Again, opening mouth, exhaling stale air out here can feel really, really nice. Coming down onto your knees, getting a sip of water. We're halfway through our Vinyasa sequence. So we're going to do the right and left side again with the same sequence, but this time we're going to incorporate our weights, which is another really unique aspect of our Sculpt practice. So we can keep the weights in our hands the entire time if we're comfortable, making sure we're stacking the wrist joints, the elbows, and the shoulders to avoid any sort of wobbling side to side. If you want, you can also just keep the weights at the top of the mat, and when you come up, that's when you'll grab them. So coming to downward facing dog. Right leg comes up behind, and then pulling forward to high plank pose with leg lifted. We're gonna exhale, lowering halfway down. Inhale up, exhale, leg comes back behind. Knee comes to nose, step foot between hands. Now would be a great time to grab our weights if they're not already in our hands. And then rising up, remembering weights always come through center body, shoulders, and up above the head. Pulling right hip back, left hip forward, and take it a little further down with the front knee. So we're gonna hold this for a little while and tap right into some sculpt work using the weights. So we're gonna hinge forward, walk the back leg in a little bit if you need it. So pull right hip back, left hip forward, and stack right knee over right ankle. We're gonna bring the arms out in front, so palms are gonna face up, and we're gonna have a bend in the elbows, not a too much of a bend or too little of a bend, kind of a middle ground. And then can we relax shoulders away from ears? You want your gaze to be down, about 2 feet, 1 foot, 1 to 2 feet in front of mat space. We're gonna find our flybacks to engage the back space, right? This is gonna get into our deltoids as well as our traps. So we're gonna open the arms up and take it down. So open it up and down, out, out. Keep breath consistent. A reminder, at any point we can open the mouth if we'd like for 4, 3, 2, and 1. I want us to pause at our furthest point out. A reminder, what we're gonna wanna do here is straighten the arms. Keep the elbows bent. That's gonna keep the engagement with the muscles. And all we're gonna do is pulse back and up for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Knuckles touch, warrior 3 position. So we should already be feeling pretty exhausted in the right standing leg. That's right where I want you, okay? We're gonna start to really exhaust in the muscle fibers. It's gonna start to get shaky. You don't need to be afraid of the shake, right? The shake can be good. It means you're redefining and the muscles are figuring out how to support you. So coming up, knuckles touch. Left hip comes down, flexing left toes. Can we engage right quadricep and right kneecap? And then bending both knees, returning back down to high lunge position. So transition here is to Savasana, bringing left hand down and dropping weight to the side. Left hand comes on inner line of right foot. We're gonna come onto left hand and outer line of left foot, take weight to heart center and then bring it up above the head. Stacking shoulders and hips. And then transitioning to our high plank pose, keeping the right weight in hand. So walking feet about mat distance apart, and we can walk the left hand a little bit closer to the center than we would normally. So this is challenging for the core stabilization and for the triceps. So we're gonna push into the hand and bring the right arm so it's glued to side body, drop right hip. And then we're gonna take it back and down for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Placing weight down, optional chaturanga, and then meeting back in down dog. So from down dog position, we can come down onto our knees if we'd like for a second. And we're gonna find our second to last cardio burst. What we're gonna do here are burpees. So if we're more yogi, we can think a little bit about burpees as kind of a more athletic, fast-paced sun A. So we have choices too along the way, and we can work on form and slow things down in the beginning. So watching me first, we're gonna start in our high plank position. We have the choice to jump or step to top of mat space. Once we're here, we're gonna stand all the way up. We can add a jump if we'd like, coming back down, option to step or jump back. If you'd like, you can add a tricep push-up, but a reminder, we're doing a lot of shoulder work and fast-paced cardio in this class, so there's no need, if you don't want, to add the dip. So if it's faster pace, it looks a little bit something like this. So starting now for 30 seconds, pushing the body. Burpees are not only shoulder and core stabilization, we're also getting into the legs. So here we go, 30 seconds. Starting, jumping forward, adding the jump if we'd like, and then coming back. Great job, staff. Coming forward, we can add the jump, yes. Planting palms, stepping back. So what we're doing here is we're engaging the glutes, and we're also getting the quads fired up. Jumping up, coming back down. So strong, adding the step or jump back if you feel comfortable. We're about halfway through. If we can here, we can start to speed things up. Last 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Hips come up and back, downward facing dog. So we're finding form on the opposite side. Left leg comes up behind. Flex toes, square hips. Keep the leg lifted, pull forward to high plank pose. Option to add the tricep dip. And then coming back up, hips come up and back. Knee comes to nose, step foot between hands, grabbing weights, and rising up. So we're gonna bring our hands out in front and straighten arms. So we're finding our bicep pulls here. We wanna make sure that the elbows are in front of the torso and the arms are extended long. A reminder when we do weight work, we wanna find the full extension and then start to bring them up and down. Up and down. Great job, Steph. Keeping it going, being sure here that we really are allowing for the full extension. So we're forced to contract the bicep muscle. Last 4, 3, 2, 1. Pausing, bringing the arms out in front. A bend in the elbows, no straight arms, but also not a 90 degrees, somewhere in between. And the last push here is pulsing the weights up and diagonal. So we're going up and out, up and out. Can we get the elbows a little bit higher? Exhausting muscles for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Knuckles touch, warrior 3 pose. Walking in back foot and coming up. If you can, pausing here, strengthening through the standing leg by contracting core, lifting kneecap, dropping right hip, and then mindfully lower back down to our high lunge position. Wonderful job, Steph. Transition to Vashisthasana right side. Right hand comes down, place weight down, and keep the left weight in hand coming onto right hand and outer line of right foot. So in our Vashisthasana, we can lift the arm up above the head if we'd like, squaring hips, deepening breath. We're going to turn to high plank pose, keeping the left weight in our hand. You know where we're going here, the tricep pullbacks. Walk the feet wide, bring the opposite hand in slightly. Engage the core, stabilize it, and then lifting the arm by your side, we're going to take it back and up. Yes, Steph, so strong. Last 4, 3, 2, and 1. Finding high plank pose, dropping the weight. You have an optional chaturanga and meeting in down dog. Bending knees, looking forward. You can jump or take small steps to top of mat space. And then standing all the way up. So we've reached our final push. We had our 2 rounds of Vinyasa, our 4 rounds of cardio bursts, and here's our 5th round. With this final round, you have the choice to keep your weights in your hand because there are ways to incorporate them, or we can just keep them down and just finish it out together with no weights. So here's how this goes. We've done a lot of upper body stabilizing and pushing things to anaerobic points. We're now going to get into the lower leg muscles, pushing them to their force point of fatigue. So here's how it goes. We're going to stand on the left leg, stabilize, just like we did in Warrior 3, right? Everything has led up to this position. And then we're going to bring right leg out in front, flex toes. And then if we want, we can bring our weights by our side. So all we're doing in this position is we're going to bring the right leg back. We can extend arms out if we'd like, and then bringing it up, back and up. What we want to be careful of is having the left knee pop in front of left ankle. It's okay to come a little over, but we don't want to overcompensate. We want to keep the hips squared and come out and down. If we want, we can eventually start to speed it up. A reminder that everything we've done in this practice, all these cardio bursts, are not only getting the heart rate up and exhausting muscles, but they're stabilizing, right? So this is a perfect example of a peak posture. We're pulling inner thighs toward each other. We're pulling legs up. We're keeping the foot flexed. We're keeping the core engaged. So strong, Steph, for 8, 7. Maybe we speed it up now. Let the heart rate start to spike. Last 4, yes, 3, 2, and 1. Come to stand at the top of mat space. Take a second, shake it out, deepen breath. Coming into our last side, this is our last 30-second push. Same exact thing, opposite side. So we're stable through the right leg this time. Left leg comes out in front. Knees stacked over ankle, keep the toes flexed when they're forward. If we did so on the opposite side, let's use the weights here. Gluing elbows to side body, taking it back and up. If we want, we can add the weights in. And if we want, we can start to speed it up, finding full stability over standing leg. Pull inner thighs toward each other. Core is engaged. And as much as Sculpt is about the body, it's also about the mind. This is tough. We're gonna have to start peeling back the layers and pushing the mind here, right? Telling your body what to do. We have our final 8. Can we speed it up, Steph? Yes. Allow for the anaerobic system to take over for 4, 3, 2, and meeting at the top of the mat. Bringing weights down, placing them on either side, coming back up. We're gonna make our way down to mat. So inhale, arms come up above the head, and then swan dive forward. Once we're here, I want us to toe heel our feet about hip distance apart. And allow yourself to hang just like we did in the beginning of class, right? Coming full circle. A lot of long holds in this class and stabilizing through hips. So to cool down, we're gonna get into the outer line of legs, IT band. Bend through the left knee significantly. Keep the right leg straight unless you tend to hyperextend, in which case you can add a little bend. Left hand comes in front of feet, spreading fingers. Right arm comes up, gaze can follow. Energizing right shoulder away from right ear. We can close the eyes. Coming back through center, pedaling out knees, then just switching sides. Significant bend in right knee, left arm comes up. Coming back down, pedaling out feet. And then all we're gonna do is lower down onto our seats. We're gonna bring the soles of feet to touch. And then I want you to walk your sits bones as close to your heels as possible. So we just got into the outer line of our hips and legs. We're now gonna get into the inner line. So bringing thumbs on the inner lines of feet, almost like we're reading our feet like a book. And then use the triceps or the elbows to push into the inner thighs, lengthen the spine, lift the chin slightly, and then pretend like a string's pulling the top of the head up toward the ceiling or sky. Keeping a flat back, start to hinge forward from the hips and pause when you start to feel sensation. Reminder, when we push ourselves as hard as we do in our cardio bursts, in our Sculpt practice, it's really important to have a really mindful cool down and get into all the major muscles that we target in this class. And then mindfully straightening legs out in front, crossing hands across chest, and one vertebrae at a time, final core work coming all the way down. Once we're down, we're gonna pull right knee into chest, giving yourself a big squeeze. And can we not just pull it directly up, but can we pull it around right rib space toward right armpit? And then flex the left toes and allow the right leg to fall over side body, finding our supine twist. Gaze can come over opposite hand if you'd like. We wanna make sure that both shoulder blades are supported by mat space. Coming back through center. And then switching sides. Left knee comes in around left rib space toward left armpit and across body. And then left knee comes across body. Making sure shoulder blades are supported by mat space. Right, this should feel really good for the core, the center body, as well as the legs, and even through the shoulder. And then coming back through center. Understanding that this practice is probably a little bit different than the normal yoga practice, right? A lot more cardio bursts, heart rate probably spikes a little more than you're used to. If you have any final positions, stretches that you feel your body needs, make sure you take them now. And then when you're ready, you're going to come to find your much deserved final resting pose, your final corpse pose, Savasana. So traditionally, legs are long, gravity pulls outer lines of feet out, shoulder blades pull toward each other and down. And just taking a second to feel the effects of your practice. Being proud of what you did. And maybe right now you can tune in and not only start to feel the physical effects of these increased cardio bursts, but maybe also the mental effects as well. Right? A clearer mind, increased levels of serotonin, which result in happiness levels. Maybe a sense of peace, a little more of a clearer mind than when you first arrived on your mat. And one of the joys of pushing yourself as hard as you do in a class like this is that you then are given these opportunities when you combine the yoga aspect to relax, to decompress, to take the rest that you need. Staying in Shavasana as long as you'd like, knowing it's a really important time to take. Thank you so much for practicing with me. I hope to see you tomorrow on Yoga Today. Namaste.